He stood silently in the doorway. Not a sound escaped him. Jamal. A man who had once been just a quiet, nervous boy, now tall and composed, dressed sharply, eyes steady, his gaze fixed on the woman sitting across the room, flipping through papers with trembling hands, Miss Carter. The same teacher who had humiliated him in front of the entire class years ago. The woman whose harsh words had burned into his memory like a scar. She didn't know he was here yet. She didn't know that the boy she once mocked had grown into the man standing right behind her. The room felt heavy, thick with tension. You could almost hear the clock ticking as Jamal watched her fidget nervously, biting her lip, trying to calm herself before the interview. She looked fragile, unsure. The tables had turned. He was calm. Not because he wanted to scare her, but because he had earned his place here. This wasn't just a job interview. This was a reckoning. What led them here? How did a cruel teacher meet the unexpected consequences of her past actions? And what would happen next in this silent, charged moment? You're about to find out. Jamal was just 12 years old when he stepped into 7th grade for the first time. A bright, curious boy, full of dreams and excitement. The kind of kid who loved history. Not just dates and names, but stories of people who changed the world. His school was big and mixed, filled with kids from all kinds of backgrounds. But Jamal was one of the few black students in his grade. Sometimes that made him feel like he stood out more than he wanted to. From the very first day, Miss Carter made it clear he caught her attention. She was their history teacher, strict, sharp, and a little cold. The kind of teacher who expected silence and perfection. But there was something else too. Every time Jamal raised his hand to answer a question, she sighed loudly, as if his voice was a bother. When he turned in his essays, she'd question if he really wrote them himself, glancing over the words like she doubted him. Sometimes, she harshly corrected his pronunciation in front of the class, making him shrink back inside himself. Other times she'd drop small, sharp comments that made him wonder if he really belonged there. Jamal didn't understand why. He worked hard, he wanted to learn. But every day the weight of her judgment pressed on him. At home things were different. Jamal's mother was his rock. She saw his pain before he spoke it aloud. Every night she'd sit beside him, holding his hand, whispering words that lifted his heart. "Baby, the world may try to dim your light, but you're meant to shine. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You're going to make it, and you'll show them all." Her strength became Jamal's anchor. Her hope planted a seed deep inside him, a seed of resilience that would grow, no matter how tough the days got. That little boy, full of hope and courage, was just beginning a journey no one could have predicted. It started like any other day in Miss Carter's history class. Jamal sat at his usual desk near the front, his eyes glued to the whiteboard as she talked about the civil rights movement. He loved this part of history. It spoke to him in ways nothing else did. Then something happened. Miss Carter made a mistake. She said that the Montgomery bus boycott started in 1965. Jamal's hand shot up, trembling just a little. He wasn't sure if he should speak, but he knew the answer was wrong. "Actually, it started in 1955, he said softly. The classroom went still. Miss Carter's face changed instantly. The warm, controlled teacher disappeared, replaced by a cold, hard glare. Her eyes locked on Jamal like he was an enemy. "You're wrong," she snapped, louder than necessary. "How dare you correct me in my own classroom?" Jamal's heart pounded, but he stayed silent, waiting for her to finish. Then she crossed the line. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Always raising your hand, always trying to be the center of attention. People like you don't end up anywhere but jail. Maybe if you learned to stay quiet, you wouldn't embarrass yourself." The room fell into a heavy silence. Some students looked shocked, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few whispered, but no one spoke up. Jamal's world shattered in that moment. He felt his face burn, his chest tightened as tears threatened to fall. He had never felt so small, so humiliated. The boy who loved history now felt like an outsider in the very place where he tried to belong. After class, Jamal told his mother everything. She was furious but didn't let anger consume her. Instead, she took action. The next day she went to the school principal, filing a formal complaint against Miss Carter. But nothing came of it. The principal said there was no proof. Miss Carter denied everything. The complaint was quietly brushed aside. Jamal's mother sat with him that night, her voice soft but firm. Sometimes, the system fails us. But that doesn't mean we fail. You are bigger than their hate. Jamal's mind was a storm: anger, sadness, confusion, all tangled together. He remembered the kindness of his mother, her faith in him, and the words she whispered like a secret. Use their hate as fuel, Jamal, let it drive you forward. That night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Jamal made a silent promise. He wouldn't let that moment define him. He would rise above. One day he would prove her wrong, and he would never forget how it felt to be broken. After that painful day in Miss Carter's classroom, something inside Jamal shifted. He didn't yell or fight back. He didn't let the harsh words break him. Instead, he folded that hurt into a quiet determination, a secret fire that would push him forward. Middle school wasn't easy. Jamal kept his head down, studying harder than anyone else. He spent hours at the library, poring over books about history, science, and technology. His grades soared, straight A's became his norm. But school wasn't the only challenge. Being one of the few black students sometimes meant facing small, sharp stings, whispers behind his back, classmates doubting his worth, teachers who seemed to expect less from him. Jamal learned to ignore those voices. He had bigger dreams. At home, things weren't always simple either. Money was tight. His mother worked long hours, but she never let Jamal feel like he was missing out. Sometimes, Jamal helped out, taking care of his younger sister, helping with chores, balancing family and school like a tightrope walker. By high school, Jamal wasn't just a good student, he was a leader. He joined the student council, started the tech club, and mentored younger students. His passion for business and technology grew. He loved the idea of creating something new, an app, a program, a company that could change lives. Teachers started to notice. His guidance counselor talked about college scholarships. Jamal worked even harder. No more distractions. No more doubt. When the acceptance letter came from an Ivy League university, with a full scholarship, Jamal could barely believe it. The boy who once felt invisible, was now walking into one of the most prestigious schools in the country. College was a whole new world. At first, Jamal struggled. Imposter syndrome crept in, the feeling that maybe he didn't belong among all those brilliant students. But he pushed through. Late nights, studying, long hours coding, endless networking. In his sophomore year, Jamal launched his first tech startup, an app designed to help students manage their homework and deadlines. It wasn't easy. There were failures, mistakes, and moments when he wanted to give up. But he kept going. Slowly his business grew. He hired a small team, a diverse group of people who shared his vision. Respect and inclusion were at the heart of everything they did. Jamal made sure every voice was heard. On his desk, next to his laptop, sat a framed photo of his mother. Her smile reminded him of where he came from, and why he couldn't stop now. Through every success, every setback, Jamal never forgot Miss Carter's words. Those cruel insults became a strange kind of fuel, a reminder that he had already beaten the odds. The boy who was told he'd end up nowhere, was now building a future that few could have imagined. And his journey was far from over. Years later, Jamal's tech startup had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. They were opening a brand new headquarters, hundreds of jobs to fill. It was a milestone, a sign that all his hard work was paying off. As the CEO, Jamal personally reviewed many of the resumes. He wanted to make sure every person joining his company shared the values he held dear: respect, inclusion, and integrity. That's when he saw it. Catherine Carter. His heart skipped a beat. The name was unmistakable. Miss Carter, the very same teacher who had humiliated him so many years ago. What had happened to her? Jamal did some digging. Divorce. A long battle with the school district after complaints piled up. Eventually she lost her teaching job. Financial struggles followed. She was applying for any position she could find, trying to rebuild. For a moment, Jamal felt a wave of resentment. How could she expect forgiveness? After everything she'd said, everything she'd done. But underneath that anger, there was something else, something softer. Empathy. Life hadn't been kind to her either. Without hesitation, Jamal instructed the HR team to schedule an interview for Catherine Carter. His decision shocked everyone. His team whispered questions, wondering why he would even consider it. But Jamal knew something. This was more than a job interview. It was a reckoning waiting to happen. He wasn't sure what would come next, but one thing was certain: the past was about to catch up with them both. Miss Carter walked into the sleek office building for her interview, nerves twisting inside her. She had no idea who the CEO was, or what kind of company she was applying to. All she knew was that she needed this job desperately. Jamal sat calmly across from her, watching her carefully. When she finally looked up, he spoke his name. "I'm Jamal Williams," he said softly. Her eyes widened. Shock froze her face. Panic flickered in her gaze. You're Jamal," she whispered, barely able to believe it. Jamal nodded. "Yes, Miss Carter. The same Jamal from your 7th grade history class." For a moment, the room was thick with silence. Then Jamal took a breath and looked her in the eyes. "I remember exactly what you said to me," he began, quoting her words slowly and deliberately. "People like you don't end up anywhere but jail." Miss Carter's face flushed with shame. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. "I'm not here to fight," Jamal continued, his voice steady but filled with pain. "I know life hasn't been easy for you. Divorce, losing your job, those things don't excuse what you said, but I understand they might explain it." She tried to justify herself, stammering about stress, fear, mistakes. But her excuses fell flat. Jamal could see the cracks in her armor. "I want you to know something important," Jamal said quietly. "Your words didn't just hurt me that day. They shaped years of struggle, moments when I doubted myself, when I wondered if I belonged. But they also fueled me. I became who I am today, because I refused to be defined by your hate." Miss Carter's eyes filled with tears. The proud, cruel teacher was gone, replaced by a broken woman facing the truth. Jamal took a deep breath. "You will not be hired here. But I want you to know this: I forgive you." The words hung in the air like a gentle light. She broke down, tears streaming, shaking with a vulnerability no one had seen before. Jamal's calm dignity, his refusal to stoop to revenge, showed her the true power of resilience and forgiveness. In that moment, the tables had turned, not through anger, but through grace. Later that evening, Jamal sat alone in his spacious office. The city lights twinkled outside, but his mind was still on the day's events. The interview with Miss Carter replayed in his head, the shock, the pain, but most of all, the grace. Revenge had never interested Jamal. For years he'd thought about that moment in the classroom, the humiliation, the cruel words, but he never wanted to repay hatred with hatred. Instead he chose something harder: forgiveness. Forgiveness brought him peace. Not just for Miss Carter, but for himself. It was a way to let go of the past without forgetting it. He thought about his mother, who had always told him, "Let your success speak louder than their hate." She had planted that seed of strength in him long ago, and now, it had grown into something powerful. Jamal's journey was about more than just proving Miss Carter wrong, it was about hope. Resilience. The quiet strength of grace that could change lives. Sometimes karma doesn't roar, sometimes it whispers in unexpected moments, like a chance encounter or a simple act of forgiveness. Jamal smiled softly. He knew the path ahead was still long, but he was ready. Ready to keep building a world where respect, dignity and opportunity belong to everyone, no matter their skin color or past mistakes. His story was a reminder that power doesn't come from hatred. It comes from rising above it. And that was the greatest victory of all. What would you have done if you were Jamal? I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspective. Share your thoughts and similar experiences in the comments below. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this story inspired or moved you in any way, please consider giving this video a like. It helps others find content that matters. Subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories filled with powerful lessons about resilience, forgiveness, and growth. We share new stories every week that might change how you see the world. And if you know someone who could benefit from Jamal's example, please share this video. These messages of courage and grace deserve to reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for watching, for your support, and for trusting us with your time. It truly means the world to us.